Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fair Unfair Life podcast. This is a podcast where real lives, real choices, and real talk come together to inspire, reflect, and connect. We hope that this space becomes a companion for you, offering comfort and maybe a little bit of inspiration for you to keep moving forward. Each week, we hear a new story, sometimes which is life changing, sometimes it can be just very quietly powerful, or sometimes it will handle the key questions of a day to day life. We believe that even if our podcast has helped one life, that we would be truly successful. So I am joined today with Monica and a lovely guest, Deepa, who is going to be our very first guest. So stay tuned as we explore the ups and downs of an immigration to a new country. Monica, over to you.
Thank you, Krati. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited because I would be uh, talking and speaking to one of my bestie on this podcast. And this happens to be our first guest. It's very important. It's very special for me. Uh, so Deepa is there along with us. Deepa, we welcome you because we understand you're from a different time zone, but still you somehow managed to agree, come to our podcast and share your stories. So this story is around your immigration process and the journey. But before that, we would love to hear about about you. What exactly is Deepa and how we can define Deepa?
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast here, Monica and Krati. It's a pleasure. And your question about define Deepa, I would say I would define and I see myself as somebody. I always say with my name, which is always I say it's about light. So I consider myself as light because the name literally means light, and I think in every way I try to inspire myself or maybe others while I'm on this journey. And apart from that, I'm a quite a free spirited soul who's very determined, at the same time easygoing, who yet at the same time quite emotional as well. I've got pretty a lot of shades like any other person or any other lady would at with various aspects of life. So in short, I would say in a nutshell, I'm quite a positive thinking, forward thinking person who believes that life has miracles every day and we have to just look around for them. And I live a
Mhm.
miraculous. I consider myself be a ray of light in my own journey as well as others' journey.
Wow, that's really sweet. That's really nice. So, as I know that you are based out of Australia right now, and your childhood till like late 30s, initial 40s was here very much in India. Now we are talking about two different continents. We are talking about two different time zone as well. And if we look back on the country and the continent side of both of these places, India happens to be like having maybe 1,000 of lifetime, 1,000 of generations, and Australia happens to be a new generation country. It's like maybe 350 or 400 years old. So, what made you feel when you landed in Australia? And how was the feeling leaving India, coming to this new place, which is completely culturally definitely is different, but at the same time, too many different things at one time. So, how was it for you at that time?
Well, immigration was not a very planned move for me. It was never on my cards or not a dream as such. And like you just mentioned that it is just a 300-year-old country and it brings so much of immigration. And like an outsider, I knew the same thing like anybody else across the globe, that it's a very new country and it's got a lot of immigrants from all over the world. And it's got its I mean challenges, but at the same time the immigrants do find their fate there. So what made me do this was I had choice as well between. I mean, when I was applying for immigration, I had my consultant whom I was talking to give me a choice about Canada or Australia. I chose Australia over Canada sheerly due to weather, and that was the only reason I said I would prefer Australia. And so that is one of the reasons I chose Australia. And your second question is, how was it? It was not a very planned move. However, it was very exciting and overwhelming. At the same time, there were many mixed emotions because I had never lived in any other country before. My home country was India, and I always lived in Mumbai. And if I ever moved out of Mumbai for, if I mean, if it was maximum I moved was a couple of days here and there for work purposes or maybe travel purposes across the globe, but never did I settle in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I would one day be living in Australia and calling it home. So it was a very exciting and very overwhelming and a very not very planned and however still a move which I was ready for or prepared for mentally. Yeah, I would say when the time arrived.
ओके। तो काफी बार आई एम लिसनिंग दैट आप कह रहे हो कि ये प्लान्ड नहीं था, दिस वाज नॉट प्लान। सो व्हाट आर यू रेफरिंग टू? ये प्लान्ड क्यों नहीं था? इतना बड़ा कदम था ये, लाइक मूविंग द एंटायर, नाउ चेंजिंग द लाइफ एक्चुअली। तो ये प्लान्ड कैसे नहीं था? ये जरा समझाएं हम लोग को।
So the planning, I would, if at all planning means well calculated, I had done my little bit of research and I did get the fact that I got a visa, that is the reason I moved there. It was the other way. You know how people don't get their visa, they start as a student and then they start thinking, they already know the job market. They already know that what would they see themselves doing a few years down the line or what would be the way. I had absolutely no idea as to it was like chicken and egg story. I got my visa and then I landed there and then I started thinking, what would I do? How would I get a next job? Because I had never been there. Like I said before, I had never landed on that on the soil of Australia to even understand how see things work there, how the situation is, how the job market is, how the culture is. I mean, I had not even seen, not even visited for leisure or tourism purposes. So it
Mhm.
was that in that context, it was not as planned. However, I knew I was going there. In that context, I did do my share a little bit of research online and did my application. So visa came in planned, of course. It took a course of over 1.5 year.
Oh,
That is how.
that's interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, I am very intrigued to understand one thing that first of all, it's tough for people, and everyone has their own different reasons why they make this move of immigrating from one country to another country. What was the story behind your decision? What made you think that इंडिया से निकलते हैं अब ऑस्ट्रेलिया चलते हैं?
I was um, I was at that point in time where people usually the reasons people move is 100% a better lifestyle and quality of life and money, which are the main reasons people or they have a family or some support in Australia. I did not have any of those, and I was in India, in Mumbai at that point when I decided. A, I was working full time in Mumbai and was doing into sales and marketing career. If at all you say, how would you define? I would say I was doing very well in terms of being having a stable job, having a home, having every necessity or more than necessity, leading a pretty good lifestyle and also have it sharing good money in terms of position and title. All that was in place. However, there was a point where I thought it's over 10 years and I was working with the same company and I need to really try something new. And I was knocking some doors to get a new opportunity. And and there was absolutely, for some reason, it was not that I was well qualified, like I said. However, there was nothing much happening. So one of my colleagues just suggested that why don't you try overseas rather than just trying the same city and the same country? Why don't you just give it a go and call the immigration agent? Because he was trying at that stage. And That is what made actually prompted me or made me take that first step, which I was even I was like, what are you talking? I mean, are you talking about migrating or are you just talking about traveling? So no, no, I'm talking about migrating. So it was a very spontaneous decision which made me or something like it was like a message that you need to go, and I took the first step of approaching an immigration agent.
Like, I'm just being very quiet, Deepa, because I'm listening and somewhere also connecting to that story because currently we are on a three continent call. So I'm talking from UK, and I have moved here at the behest of my husband's job. And you're so right. One thing is कि कई बार हमारे कंट्रोल में नहीं होता है, सिचुएशंस ऐसी हो जाती हैं, कुछ प्रॉम्प्ट्स ऐसे हो जाते हैं, कोई कोई आ गया आपकी लाइफ में, आपका वो कलीग कह के कि यार चल ये करते हैं, so you just do that. The other thing I also got reminded of very faintly is ki, so my sister, my eldest sister, is an Australian citizen. So they moved to New Zealand and then they moved to Australia. And they told us कि ये point system है, why don't you guys apply? And I remember us trying to make that application, but somehow we missed that window. So that did not happen for us. So I think one thing that I really find very profound is कि कैसे ये छोटे छोटे से ट्रिगर्स कोई कोई भी अजनबी आके या कोई भी हमारा जानकार आके हमें उस नए पाथ पे डाल देता है. And that kind of makes me feel उसके बाद वो journey हमारी हो जाती है. Like we go through the joys of it, being there in the new country, enjoying new scenic beauty. We're also settling in sometimes, finding very, very challenging situations क्योंकि कोई अपना होता है, कोई अपना नहीं होता है. So would you like to tell us, how your sort of first year into Australia sort of looked like? Was it all flowers? Was it all thorns? Was it all mixed? Tell us a little bit more.
It was not all flowers or not all thorns. It was quite a mix of the whole branch, you would say, where so the question, so like I said, I did not know a single person or a single soul in Australia. All I knew was I'm going to go there and understand how it works, and if it works, very good. If it doesn't work, I might come back because I've got everything. I've got nothing much to lose. I've got a visa. Let me just, because I got my visa, I said, let me just take this leap of faith and see how the country treats me. It was not, and then again, like you said, one link connects with another, and then there was a friend of my, a colleague of mine, who again came and told me, "Oh, you don't know anybody? How about I connect you to one of my friends whom I know there?" Or rather, I used to work with her. Why don't you? I connect you with her. I think she's also in the same city, which is Adelaide. That's where I was going. And yeah, I think she's in Adelaide. How about I connect you? And at least you know one person. And then till date, surprisingly, or I mean, that was how it was destined. I still have her as a lifelong friend in the so my common friend introduced me, and she happened to become my first point of contact in Australia, who organized a, stay for me within a shared accommodation, were apparently her neighbors. And that is how things just fell in place, one after the other. When it is meant to happen, it happens. So that was how that was my support to begin with.
What happened to your other friend who had actually prompted you to apply? Did he come through or did he get his visa as well?
Well, no, unfortunately, he did not get his visa because of, again, the points, and his partner, because he was planning to migrate with his family. His sister-in-law also got it, but he did not, and he's still in, happens to be in Mumbai. However, he was not successful at his attempt. That is how, that's the
That's what
irony.
exactly. Yeah, that's what exactly Krati was mentioning, that how it happens, It's so beautiful to kind of observe all these things. Yeah, Krati, anything, please go ahead and ask any question, whatever is coming to your mind.
So Deepa, talk to us. Maybe, I'll take you down the memory lane and talk to us what those initial few days. So you connected with your friend. It seems like you've now found an abode. And I mean, I know that probably that visa wants you to find a role, to find a job. So how did you continue to kind of sustain life there?
It was a very overwhelming, confusing, perplexed kind of a situation when I arrived. Exciting, at the same time, a big, big cultural shock because I had, like I said, I'd never visited this country for the purpose of work and settling in my life. It was not on my cards, and it has just happened. And I was on this soil of in Australia. So it was, to begin with, absolutely. I had done my master's in India, or I had done my graduation, both, of course, in commerce, and sales and marketing was my area of work. There was absolutely no sign of me getting a job with that degree in hand. It just doesn't work. It
Mm.
was like I had to start every single thing from scratch and unlearn everything I had learned so far in my life. So, and as much as I liked how where I was and how everything was so systematic, at the same time, there were many systems and processes, such as even opening your I mean, I had never had even seen how many banks in which are the top four. Of course, now I know which banks are top four. Then I had to open a bank account, get a Medicare card, get understand the transport system, understand how a resident and the citizenship works in Australia. So there were many factors that I had to firstly wrap my head around.
Yeah.
And I believe it is very important that you have, at least, thankfully for me, it was my friend who gave me some suggestions, who I just had met, a new friend. Uh, but I always think that it is very important that when you are going to such a so many miles away and to a foreign country, that you have a really thorough research and some really good connection to transition you from one country to another. It really gives you a lot of support and strength and courage and hope that you are on the path or on the track, though you have everybody has their own path. Still there it's important to have that kind of one person or a family whom you could call as your anchor. So in my case, it was my friend, and I really had to research every single thing. Thank God we still had Google at that point in time, and technology also played a big role when you had to research everything by yourself. So job situation at that stage when I landed was absolutely not hopeful. It just had there was no sign of me getting any interview call or any job. So I was left with only one choice, was to do some odd jobs in order to stop eating from my savings and actually start making some money.
Interesting. Interesting. So, well, at this point, when you were struggling for a job, and now you were seeing that, it was not coming to an avail, you were not getting successful in there. Was there any point of time in your life at that time that you felt like I made a wrong decision, I should go back? So, anytime did you feel like coming back to India, or what was the thought process when things were not moving in the right direction? How you thought?
So I had given myself at least some time, which was for internal timeline was 6 months. And interestingly enough, I was also considering, looking for my life partner. So that was my second agenda too, because I thought, like when I immigrated, I was already 38. So it was not that I was in my 20s, and I felt that not that any time is, I mean, it's your stage and your time in life when you're ready, but I thought I was ready to have a life partner as well. And it would be amazing if I could find a life partner in Australia while I am new in the country. It would be good to, also look at that personal life as well as professional life. And so, like, I had given myself a timeline of 6 months. If I said, if 6 months doesn't work for me, it's always a belief for me that if 6 months don't work, I don't think life will work. And I might then think about going back. And I had calculated I'd done that much that I knew I had enough savings to survive for 6 months and then take a call as to what is the best move after 6 months. When when you are at when the bridge arrives, you'll cross it. It was kind of that situation. I had given myself that time, and fortunately, I did find my partner at that point in life again while I was exploring for jobs. I did not find a job, but I did find my life partner, which was a reason for me to stay back in Australia.
Oh,
And it just,
so yeah, it's so such a beautiful point you said. And one of the podcasts which we recorded with Krati also mentioned the same thing, that home is a feeling, is not where you don't define home. Home is the feeling, and the feeling you got when you found your partner, it gave a reason for you to stay back. And though you haven't got a job at that time, you still decided that, okay, fine, this is my home. It's so beautiful. We human beings work on emotions in such a different way. And so we think that the what we are doing is creating the emotion, but emotions are helping us creating what we are doing. It's so different what is coming up. Deepa, thank you so much for sharing. So then what happened? Then you got married, and then what happened?
so I firstly moved in from Adelaide to Sydney because when I arrived in Australia, I was in Adelaide. That was the that was the prerequisite of a visa, that you will be living in Adelaide like for a tenure of 2 years. That was the grant clause. However, not something that is like an offense, but still a clause that. However, I met my partner who was in Sydney, so I moved from Adelaide to Sydney, and I really, really fell in love with this city. And still, job was a challenge, and I was still living on my savings, and but I did have somebody to call family or home. However, now I was more interested in actually getting bread on table and moving on with the professional side of life as well. And then he suggested that. So I said goodbye to my sales and marketing career at that time, because now I had started getting a little bit desperate with everything, just everything moving but the job situation. So I started doing diploma of childcare, early childhood education and care, which is highly recognized and really very high in demand in this part of the world. Uh, it was absolutely out of what I had even ever. I mean, I had never ever imagined or done anything like that in my life. Like I said, I was in a corporate or a copyright society doing really well in India, leading a business unit, and here I was starting from zero, putting all my expectations and all the learned whatever I'd learned, I had to literally unlearn and start from scratch, which was a very, very big challenge, and not very fun, not fun at all. I used to have really tough nights and teary nights that what did I sign up for? It was not at all easy to accept that big change. Something constant in life is change. Is in life is change, but change is always inevitable, but not always acceptable. Yeah, that is what it was.
That is like, Sudeepa, I, I'm almost at a loss of words to reflect on your journey. I'm looking and I'm speaking to a woman who has, you know, raised herself, been in India, had a really successful career, decides to, take some risks, decides to move to a new country, likes to work, but is still okay, knows when to find a husband or a partner, goes for it in an absolutely unknown place, takes that risk again, takes that, finds a confidant, continues to explore life, and whatever, you say lemons and tangerines and I don't know what all is out there, it's constantly throwing at you, and you're like, give it to me and I'll make something worthwhile of it. So I'm like in total awe of you. And this is one of the purposes why we do this podcast, because we know that, around us we have such amazing people that inspire us every day to be able to, live the life and say it's okay, or it's going to be okay, and we can handle it. give it all you got. So absolutely. I did want to know on the sort of childcare, do you have children of your own?
Well, no, I don't have children of my own. That was another reason I thought it would be a good idea uh, to learn more about children
Yeah.
and understand understand more about children, learn more. And also, it is the best thing. You get to play with them, have them all day, but you don't need to take them home. So I thought, oh wow, to explore another career, or that the feminine side or nurturing side of me as well.
Yeah.
So never done. And it revealed me again those parts of me which I had never explored before or touched before.
This is
But it was hard. Was hard. It is not an easy. It is a very full on and absolutely wearing that hat of a educator. This doesn't come with playing with children, but many other bigger responsibilities, paperwork, documentation, keeping them safe, and 100 other things associated with it. It's an industry by itself. So it is. You have to be really prepared to be emotionally, physically, mentally, in every single way exhausted, but at the same time rewarded.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
beautiful. So beautiful.
I just wanted to say one more thing because a lot of people don't know this, but I actually, when I came to the UK the first time around, I was not really working, and I had a little one to take care of. And but I was so frustrated by the end of the day that I told my husband, I said, "Look, I don't have the experience here to put it on my resume. So one thing is, in when you're outside of the country, they do want you to have some local experience." So I said, "What's the best way for me to get that?" And there was this December sort of Christmas time, and there were a lot of these superstores going, "We need people," because a lot of their native people kind of go on holidays. So there was so I could chip in, and I started working at a superstore here, and I was literally stacking shelves all night. And coming from again a rewarding career of being in a sales support and sort of being in business operations at that point of time, I felt that I did not feel very rewarded in my head. I did it because it helped me stay outside of the home. So there was some part of my life that was getting fulfilled, but it wasn't really fulfilling me professionally. So I mean, I can feel when you say that, this you are an expert at sales and marketing, and then you're having to do something completely out of your zone in that time. So what are your reflections? I mean, how did that really make you feel? I know you're saying it's exhausting, but why did you continue to do that? And that's what I want to know.
Like so you are also have been in UK, and you know how challenging it can be, and especially when we are thriving in our own country, and then when you go to another country and the economy of scale totally changes, and you feel every single day while you're living there with the lifestyle, with the such a beautiful country and lifestyle and everything comes also the joy of paying taxes and also living in that kind of economy, which is not what you've seen in your own country. So having s- getting that bread on the table and paying all your bills and every with this cost of living, everything is so expensive, so you have to work. It cannot be a single income because then that's unfair life again. So in total fairness, you have to support your partner, you have to support yourself, and also to have a better life for you. So it is not fun, but you have to accept sometimes things the way they are and say, okay, now this is a reality check. Whatever I've done is not working. Now we have to work. We have to make it work. So the only way to make it work is firstly, I think, acceptance that yes, you are an immigrant now and you have to make a living now. And what, as a human or as a qualified individual, what is it? So you have to really question it internally, deeper than what is it that will make this work and stay in this country and call it home. Yeah.
So, Deepa, what I hear from you is that you finally got a job. That's what I heard, right? You got a childcare job. Yeah. So, how long was it when you landed here in Australia?
Once I did my, so I landed in January, which is not again the best time because everybody's busy and on holidays. And I started my course only in June, in the month of, I think, February, end of March. It was only 6 months into the course, and I had started getting work
Fine.
because of the very high demand for childcare educators. Even before I just got my transcript in 6 months, and then I was in Australian workforce doing a full time job and making decent money. However, I started making money formally as a like in Australian workforce.
वाह, फैंटास्टिक। तो यानी कि ये जर्नी कंक्लूड होती है कि आप शुरू करते हो, आप एक अपना अच्छा करियर यहाँ छोड़ के जाते हो। यू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम स्क्रैच बट देयर आल्सो यू मेक अ मार्क एंड यू स्टार्ट काइंड ऑफ अर्निंग एंड स्टार्ट गेटिंग स्टेबलाइज। और मैं आप दोनों को ही एक चीज याद दिलाना चाहूंगी, अगर ये कुछ 100 साल पहले ये पॉडकास्ट कोई सुन रहा होता तो शायद तब की नारियां ये बातें ना कर रही होती, वो चूल्हा चौका ये सब बातें करती। तो ये पॉडकास्ट मुझे याद दिलाता है कि हम सही में शायद आज की नारी हैं, जो हम लोग कंधे से कंधा मिला के चलना चाहते हैं और कमाना चाहते हैं। बिकॉज जो मैं दीपा को सुन रही हूँ, इट वॉज सच अ बिग थिंग, इनफैक्ट फॉर मी, इवन फॉर प्रति, helping your spouse, helping your family, chipping in your bit, that is such an beautiful thing. And see slowly and gradually how we have become aaj ki nari, and that gets I think so end towards the end of this particular podcast. But दोस्तों जो भी आप सुन रहे हैं उनको बता दें ये जर्नी थोड़ी कंटिन्यू रहेगी, क्योंकि दीपा जी के पास बहुत सारे बोझ है उनके तस्कर में जो हम लोग के साथ वो शेयर करना चाहती हैं। और हम लोग वी विल डेफिनेटली बी ब्रॉडकास्टिंग इट वेरी शॉर्टली, द सेकेंड पार्ट ऑफ इट, तो बने रहिएगा। एंड ओवर टू यू कृति, आप प्लीज बताएं हमारे दर्शकों को आपकी तरफ से जो बताना चाहती हैं।
Absolutely. Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Deepa. And but they so we I think when we were connecting with Deepa, we said, Deepa यार आपकी story है ना, हम एक बार में नहीं कर सकते हैं. We have to break it down because it is just so beautiful कि एक जिंदगी को आप एक 30 मिनट में या 35 मिनट में नहीं कवर कर सकते हैं। सो हमारे हमारे जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो तो मैं और मोनिका पूछेंगे ही, बट आई थिंक दर्शकों के लिए, for our listeners, if you have any questions that you want to ask Deepa, like if you have been in similar waters, or you have some advice for Deepa as well, and advice for us, comments and feedback for us, please do write to us at the fair unfair life at outlook.com, and we will get back to you soon. Again, just like Deepa, we do want to hear to more real life stories. So अगर आपके पास कोई story है जो आप हमें share करना चाहते हैं, you can again write back to us. There is also a form link in our introduction. So please click there, leave us your story, and we'll make sure that we get back to you to discuss further. And today, I think we want to say from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, Deepa, for taking out this time. अपनी story share करना easy नहीं होता है, but you've just engaged us. I can't tell you कि मेरे दिमाग में अभी और कितनी सारी चीजें चल रही हैं. So I just loved talking with you. Thank you so very much.
Deepa, would you like to add anything before we conclude? We say goodbye to our viewers.
It's absolutely a pleasure being a part of your podcast here and share my story. It's more like I said, a conversation, and it is such a beautiful thing to share each other's journey and inspire anybody who is in similar situation, or to get inspired by somebody who has something else to say.
Thank you so much,
Deepa.
Deepa. Thank you so much, Krati, and thank you so much to everyone.